So after Jesus had come back from the other side of the Sea of Galilee, where he had been serving that man who was possessed by a legion of demons, a synagogue ruler named Jairus comes to him and says, "My daughter is dying. And so can you please come with me and put your hands on her so that she can be healed?" And so Jesus agrees. He's on his way with Jairus to his house, when all of a sudden a woman reaches out, touches him. Jesus notices it and then stops and tries to find this woman. Can you imagine what it would have been like to be Jairus in that moment? You've been suffering along with your daughter. Any of you who are parents know that when your child is feeling pain, you almost vicariously experience pain with them. And so their last hope, their last ditch effort was to find Jesus. And then Jesus agreed. Like, he's coming. He's going to come put his hands on her so that she's going to be healed. And then all of a sudden, it seems like he's distracted. Like, he was on his way, and now he's searching for this woman in the crowd. Like, doesn't he know my daughter is dying? Some of you have lost a child. You know exactly what Jairus was feeling in that moment. Why didn't Jesus keep going to see Jairus' daughter? You're sure that woman, she had a problem, but it wasn't as big a deal as what was happening with Jairus' daughter. I mean, she was dying. This woman had a chronic illness, but it wasn't killing her. Maybe sometimes we feel the same way about God. We look at our life and we see the things that we think should be fixed on a certain timetable, but they aren't getting fixed. We can almost wonder, has God forgotten about me? Is God distracted? Is there something else that's taking his attention? Because I've got this problem and it's really big and he's doing nothing about it, it seems. What this text is trying to get us to realize is that Jesus doesn't work on my timetable all the time. And while it may not have been the loss of a child for you, every one of us has experienced something in our life where Jesus hasn't worked on our timetable. Maybe it wasn't the loss of a child for you, but it was the loss of a close friend, a sibling, or a parent. It happened too quickly. It happened before it ever should have happened. Maybe it wasn't the loss of a person in your life. Maybe it was the loss of your physical comfort. You got a disease or a chronic pain that came way earlier than you thought it would, and you've been suffering with it, and you've been wondering, why doesn't God fix it? Maybe it was a loss of money. You had a plan for how you were going to make money, how much you were going to have in order to save for retirement, but because of maybe something that was in your control or something that was totally outside of your control, all of a sudden, that wealth isn't there anymore. Or maybe it's not something that happened too early, but something that hasn't happened yet. Maybe you're looking for a relationship with someone who is going to say that you're their person, and yet that person hasn't shown up yet. And you're trying to be faithful as a single person to God, but it's tough. Why isn't God working on my timetable? Maybe you look at the world and you wish that the end of these lockdowns would have come 6 months or 12 months ago, because you see the destruction that it's having maybe in your family or your community or just the city and country at large. Why doesn't Jesus work on our timetable? That's a question I think we've all asked ourselves. Well, the text gives us an answer to it. The answer is the story is bigger than you. It's easy for all of us to sort of get narrow focus, kind of like Jairus. My daughter, my problem, I'm feeling this. Jesus, why aren't you fixing this? But what Jesus sees is a bigger story. He sees that this woman needs him at this moment, and so he's not going to go be with Jairus' daughter. And I think that's something for all of us to consider. That whenever Jesus doesn't work on my timetable, it's because he's doing something for someone else. Maybe that someone else is another person. Maybe it's just a future version of myself. But Jesus is always doing something else because the story is bigger than me. What if the reason that Jesus allowed your child to be taken from you before their time was because that child was going to lose their faith later in life? And Jesus didn't want that to happen. What if the reason God took that child from you was so that you would be so obsessed with seeing that child again that you would never forget about God and his word, that you would stick with God throughout your life so that when you die, you can go be with your child again? What if the reason that God isn't giving you somebody in your life to marry is because God wants to focus you on other things right now, so that he can grow you into a person who's actually going to be a good spouse for whoever that is? Or maybe he's using you as an example to someone who's a little bit younger than you, who's seeing you go through singleness as a godly person, and that's going to inspire them to live their single life. Maybe God gave you that chronic pain a little bit earlier in life, so like the Apostle Paul, you would have a thorn in your flesh to keep you humble. Maybe he took away your wealth earlier than you expected so that you would fully rely on him. I don't know, it could be any number of these things, but the story is bigger than you. But that's not enough, because that's just consolation. I can't imagine that if you've lost a child or a loved one or your way of life, that it's enough for Jesus to say, yeah, but I did something for somebody else. Like, that's nice, but that doesn't fix the problem, does it? That's why Christianity is so awesome. Because Christianity doesn't just offer consolation, it offers restoration. And it's completely unique in that. The promise of the Christian faith is that all the things that are evil and wrong and broken and sinful about this world, Jesus is going to undo them. He's going to undo them at the end of the world when he recreates heaven and earth the way it was always supposed to be, a place he calls the new heavens and the new earth, and where he brings us.